Hello, hi there, beautiful. I am Eileen Nazario, and I personally love to talk about careers, especially from the perspective of spirituality and femininity. It's literally the way I have managed my entire career for the past few years, especially, but definitely for the past 5 years. Um, it's coming always from a place of following my heart and understanding, in addition to that, what the trends of the world are, right, at the very moment, so that I can align them both. Because I don't want to be going one direction, the world going another, but there's always a way to follow your heart regardless. So that's the perspective I love to talk about careers from. And this, as you guys know, is part of a larger series. Yesterday, we started the series talking about the energetics of entrepreneurship versus employment and the ways in which some people are divinely called and created in ways that might align or might fit in one or the other um, for the time being. But of course, as I mentioned yesterday, your divine calling spans all categories, all boxes that anyone can put you in. But it is important to have that level of self-awareness, given the current structures that exist in our society today, right? Where we want to align to some extent with those structures, but not, and we want to do it consciously, not from a place of disempowerment, but from a place of empowerment. If these are the structures that exist, how can I navigate these structures in a way that brings my vibes all the way up in a way that makes me feel amazing, incredible. So awareness and experimentation gives you clues as to where you should be, where you should go. And towards the end of that video yesterday, we spoke about people, those of us who might be feeling like we are stuck in limbo. We are oscillating between the question of entrepreneurship, employment, whether I should start my own business or continue down the path of my 9 to 5. And if you are one of those people, then today I am talking directly to you. If you are oscillating between confidence and doubt, deciding one way or the other, I'm talking to you specifically today. And I just would love to express that this is the state of being. And this state of being, in terms of oscillating between the two, is a state of being that I personally have grappled with myself. And that's all it is, really. It's a state of being. The question, in and of itself, implies stagnation. It implies stagnation right now, because otherwise, the question would be clarity. It would be transformed into clarity. So, before we dive in, as you guys know, this is one portion of a three-part series where we talk about the energy of both entrepreneurship and employment, deciding whether or not to quit your 9 to 5. That's the one we're talking about today. And the next part of the series, the last part of the pre-work for the Divine Calling Energetics of Entrepreneurship versus Employment Masterclass series pre-work will be the energetics of career transitions. So I'll be letting you guys know when we're doing that one. You can find all of the information down in the description box. So let's dive right in. You might be in that state of stagnation in your career right now. So let's talk about it. And I just want to dive in a little bit deeper into the thought of stagnation. Why does that question, should you quit your job to start a business, imply stagnation? Well, because if you were not stagnant, then there would be forward motion. So how do you know when you should quit your job and when you should start a business? It's a pretty much a two-part answer. Either you will know because you will feel the pull in that direction. It'll be very clearly pulling you in that direction of starting your business, or the other way around, deciding, no, I don't want to quit my job. This is the path for me. So you will either know or you will decide, right? You will decide one way or the other. I'm doing this, I'm going to start this business. Regardless of the plan you have in place to make it happen, it's a decision. Or the other route, which is I'm deciding I'm going to stay at this job and I'm going to reach whatever set goals that you have for yourself. Or it could be the decision I'm going to stay in place. But in either case, whether it's you knowing or you deciding, there's no stagnation. There's no question. It's clear, right? The path is very clear. And when you have a clear path like that, you know that you are going in the right direction. Um, Even if you're holding on hold, that in and of itself is clarity, because the clarity there is I'm not deciding right now. I don't know right now. I'm just going to let it unfold. That's clarity too. Anything else is stagnation. So let's be clear. When you are in this state, it's not always entirely your fault, right? There could be external pressures at play. There's external pressures that play a role in stagnations of all sorts. So, for example, economic downturns. If the economy isn't doing so well, and you've got people being laid off left and right, you've got companies going downhill left and right, you've got companies going bankrupt left and right, then of course there's going to be some level of insecurity in yourself where you would have questions that and not a lot of clarity. There could be job insecurity. For example, you've got all the technological advances, and with AI, for example, replacing many jobs, there could be some level of job insecurity. So that's an external pressure. It could be that you are hitting a ceiling, the ceiling of knowing that you've reached the top or the peak of your career, and there's really nowhere you can go, um, or seemingly there's nowhere you can go. But this is where I like to say that self-awareness and experimentation really comes in, because if you have the self-awareness of knowing what path you're supposed to go down, then the external pressures don't hit you as hard. We all have heard of the people who have done incredibly well during economic downturns. We have heard of the people who have made a career out of the technological advancements. We have heard of the people who have hit a ceiling and then pivoted or made the most and broke the ceiling, made the most of the situation they were in and broke past that ceiling, made it so that it didn't even exist barely. That's the self awareness and that's the experimentation. There's also the thought like, if I'm stagnant in my career, is starting a business the only path that exists? Because as I spoke about yesterday, we many times see that other people are leaving their jobs. We many times see that other people are starting these amazing businesses. And since that is the trend of life, we might feel like I should be following that trend as well. But that kind of leaves out a complete slew of other options that you have. Could there be another path that's better suited for you? Is the question of leaving your job to start that business also inspired by external pressures, which, these external pressures many times can lead to internal insecurities. So, how do you know? Should you quit your job or should you to start that business? When you know or when you decide, on the contrary to stagnating, you will be moving forward. You will feel those inspired nudges to take specific actions. You will feel yourself building momentum. You will generally feel good and confident at large with the direction that you're moving in. You will have a sense inside of you that you should be going in one direction versus the other. Or you will have a sense that you should stop for the moment and really take inventory of where you are and just pause and allow things to come to you. I was at this conference yesterday, not yesterday, this past weekend. It was a young Catholic professionals conference, and it was wonderful. I met so many people from all over the country, many people from New York City as well, which is where I live right now. So I've got to build a beautiful community with people that were from my own city, so I can attend more events in the city and meet these people more periodically. But I also met people from everywhere, and there was a gala, there were dinners, there were lunches, but there were also talks, right? So people were speaking. There were keynote speakers, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the topics that came up was the thought of what to do when you don't know what to do. And one phrase really came up that I absolutely loved. And it's what has inspired the next set of actions that I'm going to take in my own career, which is you don't have to move until God tells you to. So if you are unsure, unclear, stuck, you don't have to move at all. You can just stay right where you are for the time being. Of course, this means that you have to be okay with the current set of circumstances that you're currently under. Because if the circumstances you're under are unbearable, then the question becomes, should you stay or should you leave as soon as possible? If the circumstances you're under are fine, then the question becomes, what should you do in the meantime while you wait? While you wait for the push, for the nudge that God is telling you, or the universe, or your higher self, or your own mental thought process is telling you to move forward. Um, what should you do in the meantime? How can you make the most of the situation that you're in right now? Like, are there projects you should be picking up that are going to help you when you do start that business? Are there ways that you can get the business started right now? Are there clients that you can pick up? Are there products that you can start selling right now? And my personal take on a lot of this is well-being, right? So I always start anything especially after I graduated college because I completely burnt out in college. But after I graduated college, it became very clear to me that well-being is top of mind for me. It's the top of the list. If I'm not feeling good, then things are not working out. And I've got to do something about it and I have to do something about it fast. So, with the thought of well being in mind, it's like as long as you are feeling okay, then it is okay to stay right where you are. And at the same time, start to build a plan. And building that plan doesn't mean that you have to now work from 9 to 5. And then, in addition to that, work from 5 to 9 p.m., a full 12 hours. That's not what that means. That's not what that means because well being to me does not mean pouring all of my energy out without having the space or the spaciousness to just be myself, to just rest, to just hang out with friends, with family, to have more free flowing activities in my day to day life. So it doesn't mean you need to do that 9 to 5, 5 to 9. It can mean here and there you're implementing what you need to implement in order to get that business started. It can mean that you're going out there meeting people that are going to become mentors or coaches for you in starting your business. It could mean that, if you decided to go the path of kicking up, ramping things up in your own career and like not going the path of entrepreneurship and instead going the path of staying at your job and growing within that space, then that could mean coming up with goals for how you can continuously make progress so that you can feel fulfilled in that space. So that's the first thought. You don't have to do it immediately. If you decide or feel the pull, then you can tell yourself, I can put a plan in place. I can get it started right now. You don't have to quit cold turkey. You can either create the roadmap that you're looking for yourself, or you can let it fall into your lap. There's that thought as well, doing both, managing your time so that you can have a little bit of both. Or the path, you don't have to do it at all if you decide that you want to grow in your own career, um, in terms of like your actual job and growing within that space versus starting a business. Or for those of you who are a little crazy like me, you might just quit outright because you feel that that's what you are being called to do. But even in that sense, you can see that it's all about a calling. It's all about being divinely called towards something. You're not just jumping because, you're a wild, crazy person. No, you're jumping because you feel the pull. You're jumping because you decided. You are jumping because you have faith in yourself. You are jumping because you know you've got what it takes. You're jumping because you've done this before. You're jumping because you have experience. You're jumping because people have confirmed that you can do this. You're jumping because you've already gathered a few clients. You're jumping because you've already launched a few products. You're jumping because you've already experienced some of that success. So you're not jumping out of, this willy-nilly idea that you woke up today and thought, okay, putting in my 2 weeks notice. No, like you are doing this from a place of empowerment. You are doing this from a place of flowing with life, going with the flow of where life is taking you, going with the flow of where God is taking you. And of course, that means if you decide to go the path of, yes, quitting your job, starting that business, then are your finances in order? If you didn't do the hybrid of doing it both at the same time so that you can ramp up your business while you slow down your job or essentially close things out at your job, if you didn't do that, business, job, business is taking off while you slowly close things out off board on your job. If you didn't go that route where your finances of your business will keep you afloat, and instead you're going the route of quitting outright, then are your finances in order? Because in either case you don't know what the future holds. And of course, as we spoke about yesterday, the entrepreneurship path is not necessarily predictable, and therefore that means revenue is not predictable. So this is something that I personally started doing. Like when I was in the place where I was figuring out whether to quit my job to follow a certain path, putting together spreadsheets. So whatever it is that will help me understand, like uh connecting all of my bank accounts to a specific software that allows me to see where I am financially, how I'm doing financially, what my financial health is. Because your financial health is what will carry you forward. Your financial health is what will give you confidence. Your financial health is what will make you feel super empowered as you go down this path, because your financial health is a key component to you being alive, right? Like your job or your business, that's your livelihood. There's a reason people call it your livelihood, because the finances aspect of life really keeps you afloat in terms of opening up your options to many things. Of course, this doesn't have anything to do with your happiness levels. We all know people who make a lot of money but are unhappy, or we all know people who make a lot of money but don't know how to manage their finances, so they're always broke. We all know people who have very little money, but they're the happiest people alive. We all know people who have very low income, but they're really amazing at saving, and they're really amazing at managing their finances. And so they are steadily climbing towards financial stability, freedom, whatever it is you can imagine. So finances is a huge part of this decision. And then you have the other part, which is how can you relish in this experience? So, whether you are deciding to go that path or not, how can you relish in the experience of not having yet done it, right? Like, if you are at a place in your life, in your career, where you're deciding, yes, I'm going to start a business, but right now I'm going to stay put at my job. How can you relish in that experience knowing that all the pressures of performing, like burning out potentially, of pushing forward at your job, you can lift those pressures off of your shoulders because you have clarity. You know where you're headed. You know that you're building something meaningful. You know that you've got a plan in place. You know that you have God's blessing on this. You know that you have your own blessing on this. You know that this is the path that you are being called towards. So relish in the experience of knowing that this is all working out for you as we speak. And not only is it working out for you as we speak, but all of the bricks are being laid for that path that you are about to walk down. All of the bricks are being laid for you. All of the bricks, one by one by one, all of the golden bricks are being laid perfectly, one after the other, for the very next step you are taking right now, but also the hundreds of steps you are about to take. So relish in that experience. So that is pretty much where we are for today. I will be, as I mentioned last series, the last a part of the series, I will be putting this particular recording in the Divine Calling, the Energetics of Entrepreneurship versus Employment Masterclass. And as I mentioned, you can find that in the description. In the masterclass, we're going to really focus in on embracing your blueprint. What are you being divinely called towards? And once you know what you're being divinely called towards, once you get a little bit of clarity around that, it can start to help you form the understanding of which of these structures you belong in. Are you going down the entrepreneurship path? Are you going down the employment path? Or are you doing a hybrid of both? How can you do that effectively, efficiently, in a way that feels good? Forget effective, actually, forget efficient. How can you feel good while doing it? Because the most efficient thing you can do is feel good. The most effective thing you can do is feel good. So we're going to workshop that together. We're going to dive deep into mapping your calling to the structures, to the work model that you're going to take on, whether that's entrepreneurship or your 9 to 5. And of course, we are going to include some embodiment practices based on your particular work model. So make sure that you're not burning yourself out living someone else's calling. I am super excited to be hosting this because it really just was born out of a conversation I had with one of my beautiful mentors, coaches, friends, big sister, Mina Irfan, which led to the conversation that led to the very call that we're on right now. Which led to this masterclass as well. So I am very excited to take this conversation and make it something tangible. I'm excited to take this conversation and make it something that I personally can refer back to. So, me creating this is literally me pouring my energy into something physical, something tangible, or should we call it digital because it's not physical, but uh, all of that aside, all of the computer science thoughts that just cluttered my mind right now aside, creating something that you can see, that you can hear. So we are tapping into those senses right now. So I am so excited for this. It's going to be happening at in the beginning of May. Once we are done with this series, I'm going to pull a couple of these videos down from YouTube and I'm going to post it as pre-work modules slash lessons in the masterclass course page. And on there, you'll be able to refer back to these. So you can always start with this pre-work and then we'll dive into the masterclass, embracing your blueprint, figuring out that divine calling, which of these work models, which of these structures does your divine calling lead you towards or open itself to, embodiment practices that are based in these particular work models, and making sure we are living out a life that is fit for us, because we don't have to fit the mold that society has for us. We don't have to fit the mold of what everyone else is doing. Everyone else is already walking down their particular path, whatever that may be. We don't have to follow that path. We can live a path of our own, because that's what trailblazers are all about. That's what pioneers are all about. These are people who have crafted a path for themselves by simply just digging through the mud, right? Just swimming through the dark and being open to whatever it is that comes up, being open to the directions that open up for you, being open to the multiple paths. It's a path of curiosity, it's a path of self awareness, it's a path of experimentation. So if you can take a path that really feels super good to you, that's the path of alignment. That's a path of God. That's a path of your calling. Because whatever you're being called to, that is literally your calling. What are you being called towards? Every single day of your life, you're being called towards something. What is it that you are being called towards? And are you following the calling? Are you answering the call? I remember listening to, I believe it was Sarah Jake Roberts, and she said something that just blew my mind. She said that we are all called. But the reason only some people are chosen is because some people choose themselves. Some people decide to answer the call. So everyone is called, but are you chosen? Are you choosing yourself? Are you choosing to answer the call? Are you choosing to follow your calling? So that is it. Tomorrow, not maybe not tomorrow. I might switch the schedule. I know I have the next call scheduled for tomorrow, but I might change that because there's an event that I want to attend, and I don't think I want to miss it. So I'm really excited about it. But the next part of the series essentially is going to be about the larger concept of your specific calling, because the way I like to view it is that your calling is so much bigger than the question of entrepreneurship versus employment. Your calling should be top of mind for you. Before you even ask the question of entrepreneurship versus employment, the question should be your calling. That should come first. And yes, the question of entrepreneurship versus employment is an important one because of the structures that are defined within our society, right? We want to take the structures that exist, those are the ingredients of life, and we want to create our own recipe. So that might mean a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of mixing it all together, or all in this way, all in that way. Entrepreneurship versus employment. It's all going to be based on your divine calling. So it's like a triangle, right? Where the top of the point is that calling, and then everything else funnels into it. Everything else funnels up towards that point, which is your calling. So we tomorrow or the next part of the series, we're going to reconcile answering the calling and then understanding the various categories, buckets, boxes that society has carved out for us so that we can create what we want based on those categories, buckets, and boxes. So this is all gonna lead into this is all gonna make ultimate sense in the masterclass. So I'm really excited to dive into that. But all of that information is in the description box. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today. Your presence means a lot. And like one of the girls who commented on yesterday's video said, she feels like both God and her divine team led her here. And that's how I feel. If you are here, it's because the powers that be, the higher powers of life, have brought us here together. So I'm going to go enjoy dinner now, and I will catch you all in the next video, the last part of the series. All right, lovelies, I will catch you guys later. Mwah.